The following is a conversation with John Miller, sometimes known as John Roland Miller. I met John through mutual friends in, I think, summer 2021, and he was probably the most active engineer on my debut songs record, Torso. John now works at the Power Station, which is a recording studio in Manhattan with a long and storied history. He's been an assistant engineer on sessions by bands like Big Thief and artists like Shakira. And he's also active in the Brooklyn indie rock scene, both as an engineer and as a band member, as a musician. John cares a lot. He puts a lot of effort into what he does. And I think this is a great conversation. We get pretty technical at some points, talking about specific outboard gear that he uses and how he thinks about using it. We talk about how he approaches recording bands. We get into the specifics of things like whether mic placement matters. We talk about the learning process. Then we also talk about some of his experiences, both playing in bands and his experiences of engineering, specifically artists like Big Thief when they were working on their record Double Infinity, which was a record where John was credited as, I believe, an assistant engineer, and he was in the room for a lot of the stuff that happened. So I think this is a great conversation. Hope you enjoy. If you like it, let me know. If there are, topics, if there are lines of thought, lines of conversation that you would have liked to hear more of, let me know. My goal with these conversations is to provide value to people who are musicians who really care, but might not necessarily feel like they currently have all the resources that they need to do what they want to do. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. All right, let's jump in.
Yo,
Hey, yo, it's good to see you. How's it going?
uh, good, good. How you doing?
Cool. I'm pretty good. I'm good emotionally. I got a cold this week, so I've been sleeping for like 5 days. But like other than that, it's good. I tried going to Kevin's show last night, the Endurance show at Cassette. And I was there for I made it probably like 20 minutes or half an hour, and I was like, I need to go back to sleep. But yeah. Apparently the songwriter from that band of Montreal was opening for them somehow.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I was like,
Wow.
okay, I should go to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I missed that set because I got there later because I live in the East Village. It's like a long trek. But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so the general structure for these conversations, or rather I'll start with the intent. So the intent for these conversations is that for one thing, they're just kind of letting us explore what you do and what you're thinking about, so that when we do the workshop, students that I'm working with will be able to ask more informed questions. And then there's also the sort of sharing these interviews with I guess with the world through YouTube. I mean, with the 20 people that will probably see it, but still, yeah. And so there's also some because the way that I've been teaching for the last few years, which is called Create Interesting Music, is kind of there are people who are in the program, and there's I'm trying to make it less opaque as to what's going on and what we do and stuff like that, or even less opaque as to who I am and what I do and the community that I am a part of and stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to share these things with the world more broadly. And so from there, the intent for the
Cool.
conversation is hopefully talking about things that will be useful to people who might not necessarily be people excuse me, who are going to go to music school, but they're people who really care about music. They're people who want to write songs and learn their instrument and make records, and hopefully play shows and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to steer them towards steer the conversations towards things that are going to be useful for people. And this is the third conversation. I did one with a friend named Drew Wiselli, who does a lot of very experimental stuff, and then one with my friend
Yeah.
Lila, who's really doing the LA thing now. But she was a Harvard NEC student and used to do jazz stuff and is now a singer-songwriter in LA, and that's going pretty well for her. So yeah,
Nice.
so you're the third.
I'm third.
Yeah. So for a
Nice.
start point, so you're working at the power station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
how long have you been working there?
yeah. I've worked there for it's like 2.5 years now.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you've learned from the experience so far, or how you're your approach to recording, mixing, engineering, producing has been like informed by the experiences that you've had so far?
Well, I've definitely learned a ton.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah, I mean, I feel like Power Station gets like a very wide range of recording projects.
Yeah.
Um, from like the intense like corporate like commercial music,
Yeah.
borderline. Well, I mean, literally, I just did the like Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade like pre-records.
Whoa. That's
Um,
wild. Yeah.
for like it's like like literally like this is in case it rains. Um, for the parade, like we recorded like basically like the lip sync
Hmm.
um option, which is just like a wild, just like I don't know. It's so yeah, there's like there's a lot of stuff that comes through that is like very like functional,
Hmm.
like kind of just like practical like uses of a recording studio. And then there's like, you know, it there's the more like creative kind of uh yeah, creative almost seems like an understatement or something like
Yeah.
yeah, people who are like making records, like artists making records, coming through, and they don't really always know like where they're going with it, and it kind of like takes shape in the studio.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like kind of in between those edges, like there's like a practice for recording that kind of fits that can fit both things. To just kind of like, yeah, capture whatever the whatever the artist or client is trying to get done. Um yeah, I feel like mainly like the kinds of things that I've learned are like centered around kind of like letting it happen,
Hmm.
um and setting up a bunch of stuff
Hmm.
um in preparation for chaos, to just like
Yeah.
kind of assuming that whoever is coming through the studio, they might want to record Rhodes at the last second. So
Yeah.
like it's like, having something set up, or yeah, some kind of infrastructure set up for people to kind of like go whatever way they want to go.
Yeah. Cool. And so like, yeah, what's the preparation process like that for? Like, for example, like how, like from a super like functional perspective, like how much earlier are you at the studio than the people who are recording?
We we tend to do like the night before.
Okay.
Um, we'll sometimes like even 2 days before. Like
Wow.
it kind of depends on like how on top of it the um engineer or producers are with like their information, like
Hmm.
what the goals are of the session, what mics they want to use, where they want people placed in the room. It depends on that, like that setup information.
Yeah.
um but usually it's the night before. We'll set up the session so that yeah, the people can just like come in and kind of hit the ground running.
Cool. Yeah. And yeah, it's this is all super interesting to hear about. And also thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, no
fun.
problem.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so what are you looking for when somebody is letting you know what they're gonna need for a session? Like if somebody wants to like be a pro about this and have everything go really smoothly,
Yeah,
like
how much
what
time
should
we
they
got?
do?
Like,
But seriously, like because I
yeah,
mean these are things that like I mean I've definitely had students ask me about like booking recording studio time before.
yeah, no,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Like, I feel like, a lot of times people are like they're looking to know like yeah, studio staff. They're
Mhm.
looking to know like kind of what the definitely what the instrumentation is.
Mhm.
Um, because that's it's like really hard to like add something.
Yeah.
Kind of like well, not like really hard. It's just like, the reason why we set up the night before is so that we can like go through and like test everything.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like points of failure, of potential
Mhm.
failure along the audio signal chain.
Yeah.
Um, where like it's really useful to know that like every mic is working, every
Yeah.
DI, everything's patched correctly. Um, and then to like add to that can be like it can be difficult,
Yeah.
or like can present like stress at the beginning of a session, which is like, I mean it's pretty much always going to be stressful at the beginning of a session, but like
Yeah.
um but you know the less stress the better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um but yeah, so definitely like looking for like a pretty solid like, we're looking to record like drums, bass, guitar, vocals, um djembe and marimba,
Mhm.
like all at the same time. Also kind of like maybe like how many songs, generally kind of like how long is the session gonna be? Um, and then it kind of gets into like microphones and gear,
Mhm.
um, so that um so that we can make sure that it's available.
Yeah.
Um, it's always tough when someone is like, hoping that yeah, right, the roads or like the whirly or something is like, oh, like can we get that on the session, and then it's like actually like reserved for another one.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so generally speaking, do people like send you, is it like an email? Is there like a type of document that you're looking for? Like people will send you a PDF with all the information and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have floor plans of
Okay.
all the studios, and so
Cool.
like people send like really awesome like hand drawings of like a piano in the corner,
Cool.
and like and a drum set and stuff, and so it's like this is kind of like the rough layout of the room.
Yeah.
And then yeah, engineers will send like an input list.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So from there we go into also there's other stuff that we'll talk about, I'm sure, as we jump into it, but this is so cool to just get to like really dig in. Okay, so yeah, the beginning of a session can be stressful. My
Yeah.
recording studio experience exists, but it's pretty limited. I mean, I've like, as you know, I've had a pretty like DIY approach to a lot of things, but I definitely remember in the early stages, like with this one record that I recorded at the studio a couple of years ago. It was me and like two other people, and we had an insane setup with like instruments that were being like lined into other people's laptops and stuff. Like it was totally
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
beginning of the session was like we were just trying to get everything to work, and there were all these different microphones and stuff. One cool thing that happened actually was that apparently the last person to use the guitar amp before me was Bill Frisell. And so
Nice.
the guy was like,
Nice
and
warmed up for you.
yeah, and so it was at the studio, Great Fade Studio, and the person who was the engineer was this guy Joe Bransford, who's awesome, and he's done a couple workshops with the students. Actually, he like won a Grammy for engineering a Chick Corea
Yeah.
record, but
Oh,
he
right.
was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but he was like this is just how Bill had it set up, but like if you want, like you can change it or like do it, and I was just like, no, like if it's good enough for Bill, it's good enough for me, you know. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
we'll leave it. We'll leave
we'll
it.
leave it. He knows enough. I think it's gonna be okay. But yeah, so when you're in those first like like the first hour of a session, um, and there's maybe stressful energy, maybe anxious energy. Um, what's that like as an engineer? And like what's it like? Either are there things that you do to help things run smoothly? Are there sort of those like soft social skills that you're trying to pull on to like make things run a little bit more smoothly? And then also like how do you see the energy shift as people are kind of like more getting in the zone. If this is a thing, I might be just
Yeah,
making
no, I
it up.
mean
Yeah.
I feel like we call it downbeat, right?
Okay.
Like the
Yeah.
usually our sessions have a time. There's
Yeah.
like kind of like a we want to be recording at 11 a.m. or something like that. So
Yeah.
like that is the time that you're like you're shooting for like that's we're doing take one
Mhm.
um at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
and well yeah, especially with like we do like all the big Broadway like cast albums.
Hmm.
And those setups are like massive. Um, 150 inputs, kind of a thing.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like multiple studios tied together.
Yeah.
Um, and so downbeat is like, well, and the thing with Broadway is like there's a bunch of unions, so like it has to start then. Like, um, because there's like breaks, there's like, there's all sorts of like union mandates that we have to follow. So it's like it's really important that we don't waste any time. So yeah, it gets very stressful like for the big ones.
Yeah.
And I mean I think it all comes down to like that yeah, that like preparation the night before, like definitely just like knowing that everything works
Yeah.
is huge.
Totally.
Um, and and then also like the morning of getting there like a few hours early to like
Hmm.
do another check
Yeah.
and to kind of like yeah do things like um you know just make sure things are kind of like tidy
Hmm.
um and that if you oh yeah getting kind of like backup uh cables and things that like oh if I have to run for this at the last second like it's gonna take 10 minutes for me to get it to like just go ahead and have that in the room. It's just a lot of like kind of anticipating things that like may go wrong that and then if they do you have like kind of a quick fix for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean no matter what like things are going to be a little like wonky
Yeah.
at that down. Like there's going to be a little bit of like um things aren't well yeah trying to make sure that everything microphone related
Yeah.
is like just there's no problems with that
Yeah.
um and like headphones yeah trying to make sure that like all the headphones are like good to go. People will always have qualms with the headphones but like uh that is like yeah it's just a given. So yeah I feel like preparing for a bit of a sprint at the
Yeah.
beginning. Like that you're gonna be running around, you're gonna have to like um do a little bit of like problem solving, kind of accepting the awkwardness of it too, I
Yeah.
think. Where like someone will like ask you to or they'll say like, oh, like my headphones are they sound weird or something, and you kind of have to run out there and hold up the session for what feels like 30 minutes, but is actually only like two.
Yeah.
Um, you just kind of like accepting that it's going to be a little bit like awkward at first,
Hmm.
and then it's like once like you're recording, once you're doing the first take, it kind of like chills out.
Yeah.
Um, it chills out like by 40% or something.
Yeah.
And then from there there's a little bit of like yeah you're still like on high alert kind of making sure that everyone is comfortable. But once they're like doing takes, once people are like ripping takes, it's like
Hmm.
you kind of found it. And
Yeah.
and then you can relax until something else happens later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Okay. Um, wow. Very comprehensive answer. Thanks so much for that. This is great. Okay.
I'm
So
glad.
I'm curious. Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, like, with all of the things that the experiences that you've had working on these really large scale like productions, like working as an engineer, on these like larger scale productions, whether it's like for the Macy's Day Parade thing or it's for the Broadway things. I'm curious about like whether you feel like that has like changed your skill set in ways that have really helped with some of the more creative or open-ended things.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the kind of almost like I don't know if military is a good way to put it, but like the kind of like way more like rigid um just like functional recording at that level of like 150 inputs and like we're bringing in like cameras and screens so that people can see each other kind of a vibe like um I kind of view it as like chops um like um where it's not quite like there isn't a ton of like vibe to it or like um kind of like stylistic choice. It's more like make sure everything is working. Um and and I mean don't get me wrong, like literally just making sure everything works in a situation like that sounds awesome. And it's a really cool thing to hear.
Yeah.
Um but but yeah, I mean I feel like just last weekend I went up to Westchester and recorded the Plebs, um,
Yeah.
Jake's band, the Plebs. Um, and I feel like just some of that, like, I feel like it has made me obsess less over things like mic placement
Mm.
or like, or I saw like a funny kind of meme thing the other day that was like, like the amateur or like a beginner engineer is like, oh, like I'm gonna put this microphone in front of the amp and like I hope it sounds good. And then the intermediate engineer is like, all right, I'm gonna like set it to like figure eight and I'm gonna like null like everything, at the first reflection point.
Yeah.
And then like the pro engineer is like, I'm gonna put the microphone in front of the amp and like I
Yeah.
hope um and so yeah, I mean I feel like that. Yeah, I mean, I still kind of like obsess a little bit sometimes, especially when things aren't sounding right. But like, um, for the most part, I think like just kind of like still even just like making sure everything is working properly and listening, definitely like just like listening and trying fun things, but like not freaking out if it doesn't work. Just like it's like I'm gonna try this one out, and then if it doesn't work the first two times or whatever, then I'm gonna like I'm gonna change.
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah. Anyway, I feel like working on those like on a big scale like that has kind of like it has made it easier to kind of like yeah, just like not obsess
Yeah.
over um over details.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of funny. I was talking about this with I'm so sorry. I'm making all of these person that has a cold sounds right now. It may or may not be edited out. But maybe it's just part of the
Leave
spirit of
them
where I'm at
in.
right now. Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny. I was talking to yeah, the last person that I talked to for these conversations, Lila, on Monday, and she was talking about songwriters and instrumentalists like working on tracks in a way that feels like her word was like overwrought. Um and there was a similar thing about like that I said about like for me like yeah like obsessing over tons of tiny details is it's kind of like an intermediate stage thing because you're learning about why all the different options exist and you're learning why all of the different sort of parameters exist and you're like oh if I it's funny because I was thinking about a thing I mean that the type of thing that wouldn't actually involve turning knobs but in our case it actually totally involves turning knobs but I was going to say like oh, like if you turn the knob just a little bit this way, this is what happens, you know. And with engineering,
Yeah,
that's literally kind of what it is. But it's like so you kind of like fiddle with it and obsess over it. But I feel like you get to a point where like, I mean, for me, like finishing records and being on the other side of the process, especially with Torso, which was my first record, and it's a record that you worked a lot on. You put a lot of hours into that record, which was awesome. Like it's like having the big picture puts all of the details in perspective so that then you know why they're there and you know whether it matters because I'm sure there is some specific situation
yeah,
where you really want to use like a certain mic placement, but in many other situations it doesn't matter. Like if you have 150 lines in, and all that really matters, you know, for like a Broadway recording production is that everything is like clean, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
Then like then
yeah,
it's gonna be different than like if you're working on a Big Thief record and you want like a really weird guitar tone, you know.
yeah,
So I get yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so it's just cool like learning the details, but then getting to a point where you can kind of zoom out and be like, okay, just big picture. I don't need to obsess because I know what those things do, and I know that those little details don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You know.
Totally.
Uh,
I was just gonna say it's like I feel like it's not that you're not paying attention to the details.
yeah.
It's like you're figuring out which ones are like a problem
Yeah.
that you have to like actually like open up the hood and like go
Totally.
into because that still totally does happen. I mean, like literally on the Macy's thing, I was like there was a moment where I was like in the live room like speaking into one of like the saxophone mics.
Mhm.
You know, it's like there was something wrong with that mic and we found
Yeah.
it. It was like that one mic
Wow.
of like hundreds, you know, or maybe, yeah, not hundreds of mics, but like, yeah, of all the mics, there's this one, and we
Yeah.
found it, and it's like, and I'm in there like, check one, two, check one, two, check one, two, like into this
Wow.
mic so that we can fix it.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, other times it's like, yeah, like with the Big Thief album, like, I mean, I feel like there were times where it almost seemed like the engineer would just like kick a microphone in front of an amplifier and be like, that's fine. Like,
Yeah. And like as in and it was fine or as in like
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Or I
Okay.
just mean like, you know, like not like super, super concerned with what's going on. It would just kind
Right.
of like toss it up and be like, um, I mean, but that one was also like, that's an example of like a very slow pace,
Hmm.
um, setup where it kind of, we didn't have the floor layout or the input list
Hmm.
before they showed up. It was like,
Wow.
it all just like happened at once.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I'd love to hear I mean like without obviously like sharing information that they would want to not have shared or whatever, like yeah, what it was like working on the Big Thief record. It's double I think it's called Double Infinity,
Double
right?
Infinity, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What was it like working on Double Infinity?
It's like, you know, one of the highest honors of my life, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible and really shook things up um at the studio. You know, we're so used to clear instructions um from the production team
Mm,
and a clear schedule. Also, we're used to doing like a cast album in 2 days.
yeah.
And they had it booked for like 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, there, I mean, it was it was just such a different vibe than we're used to.
Yeah.
And I was so about it. I was so down.
Yeah.
Um, Especially when they were like, we had a call with with their management, you
Hmm.
know, and they were talking about like, you know, we want to make sure that there's like good like furniture for people to like relax and like, you know, good lighting. You know, they're talking about like the lighting and like temperature of the room and stuff. And I was just
Yeah.
like these are folks who are like trying to like really stretch out um and like be comfortable like making a record, not just trying to get it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean they came in and they set up the first day, didn't really do any takes. But I mean that was also a little different because we did it all to tape.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean the engineer and tape op came first, and they kind of, you know, had us get a few microphones here and there that they
Hmm.
thought they might use.
Yeah.
But then like the band showed up. Well, actually, I should preface this by saying that they did have a truck come the night before, um, with like all their gear, you
Wow.
know, all like guitars and drums and um personal belongings. There were like bikes,
Wow.
you know. It's kind of like they were like moving into the studio.
Yeah.
Um, and so they dropped all that off, and the next day we kind of brought it all into the studio and um kind of started getting a lay of the land, testing the tape machine. Um, and then the band showed up, and then it was like that was kind of a sprint for that was like that was more of like a in between a sprint and long distance. It was like uh you know, running around a lot, plugging things in kind
Hmm.
of at the last second. Um, but it wasn't like a stressful thing. It was more just like just trying to get them set up.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't like they were expecting to like start recording immediately. They you know knew that they were going to be just setting up. Um, and yeah, and then after that, I feel like the setup pretty much stayed. We did switch studios at one point. Um, so that was a bit of a changeover.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the big difference that or yeah, big thing that I learned on that one was how they would just like just roll. They would just roll tape.
Mm.
Um, like kind of endlessly.
Wow.
Um, unless it was like dinner break, it's like we'd pause for that or like pause for like big breaks. But other than that, like the tape machine is it's just like going. And so it's capturing everything.
Wow.
It's capturing them playing, it's capturing us like unplugging and plugging back in mics.
Hmm.
It's capturing ground loops,
Wow.
um, and fixing ground loops. And then, you know, the tape op is over there like looking at the counter and being like, okay, well, at this timestamp, they did take number two
Wow.
of that song.
Wow. Yeah.
And then it's like you go back and like listen to that timestamp. Like so wild.
Yeah, yeah. And so do you think the reason for that is that like it's kind of like in the style of this older, mode of like making records where like, like with a lot of the classic like Miles Davis records, you'll have, just like I'll like when you get the reissue from like 40 years after it comes out that's got like 3 discs of like studio outtakes. They're recordings of them just like talking for 30 seconds off my
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
kind of like the mythology of the record and having all of this additional material, or like why do you think they were rolling tape the whole time?
Oh no, I think it's mostly to kind of do away with the like we call it like red light fever.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like when when you know you're recording,
Yeah,
the pressure is on.
totally.
So like they kind of like don't even think about it like that. That, it's like sometimes they would be playing a song and then like it would just kind of go off into this like jam, or like they would kind of loop a part of a song for like a long time,
Hmm.
and then they would kind of stop and then immediately would just start playing the song again. So
Yeah.
there isn't really time. It's not really like, it doesn't really make sense to treat it like, okay, here's take two.
Yeah.
They're just kind of playing,
Yeah.
and then like it's kind of up to the producer and the tape op to like keep track of like when they did good stuff.
Yeah.
Or also, I mean, like they would totally just be like, oh, that was a really good one. Like most of the time it's like a unanimous,
Mm.
like, well, that was another thing, is that they kind of roll, and then if they did a really good take of something and everyone was like, that was awesome, they would just like stop and like take the tape off and like put it away and be like, there's a good one on that one.
Mm.
Like there's a good take on that reel.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, it was very just like um just kind of capturing like the entire experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean they had B-roll for
Hmm.
sure, that made it into the record.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more for like the mentality of recording.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is also interesting to hear about because in my like limited capacity as an engineer of other people, which is something I've just done like a few times, like for friends when they ask. I actually I engineered in a pretty loose way for reasons that are about to make sense, but I was kind of the engineer on my friend's 5 hour long solo guitar record, or like 4.5 hour long solo guitar record. And so it's pretty minimal. It was basically just like setting up mics, and then mixing was just like making sure there's some basic processing that's just not going to change for the whole like 30-minute track or whatever. Cause like I'm not like, we're not, it's not on a scale where going
Yeah.
with the fine tooth comb would like make
Yeah, yeah.
any sense at all. But one of the really interesting things about that, and then doing another recording session with this friend who's a guitarist named Keenan Ruffin. I recorded a duo session with him and this other guitarist, Ian Michael, who actually you might have overlapped at Berkeley with Ian. Um,
Sounds familiar, yeah.
yeah, and I was trying to just like hit play when they were going to start playing, but they would do things where they'd be like, okay, let's try this for a set. Like they were gonna rehearse something. And so then they'd start playing, and then they wouldn't just play for like 3 seconds, and I'd be like, oh, I have to press space bar now. Like, or I have to press record now. Because like
Right.
as an engineer, I had no idea what they were doing. Like, and they weren't,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had no idea what to call anything, you know. And I feel like my limited experience of working in studios, there's just been a lot more, okay, we're doing this, you know. But so it was interesting for me to do that and be like, oh, I need a better labeling system, you know, because I had no idea. I was like, sure, I'll just press record and set up some mics or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
the like you called it red light fever.
Yeah.
I totally, yeah. I mean, I feel like my way of dealing with that has just been to like record myself so that I can do like 50 takes, and by, take four, I'm not worrying about it anymore. But
Yeah.
that's such an interesting strategy. Just like keep things, just keep rolling, and
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I think it kind of only it really only applies when you're doing something like very live.
yeah,
Like when you're tracking like an entire band.
yeah.
Mm. Or I mean, I guess it applies to other situations too, but for like
But yeah,
overdubbing and stuff like that,
it's
like
like it's
it's
less intense. Yeah, because
yeah.
like when you're recording a whole bit, it's like what we were playing right now is like the truth, and then
Right.
there's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's also like the first song of a set or something, where like you're
Right.
playing and you're like, do I remember how to play this instrument for like two
Yeah.
seconds? I don't know if you have that, but like it's I
Totally.
don't have it that much
Every
anymore, but
time.
it's like, yeah, just the
Yeah.
very beginning of the set.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I'd love to hear this process of them being in the studio for like 2.5 weeks. Like, what was it like for you to like see the record taking shape? I mean, did it feel like you were seeing a record taking shape, or was it kind of a lot of different types of scattered events?
It was like I feel like it was a bit scattered. I mean, I wasn't on it for the entire 2.5 weeks.
Right.
I was like I kind of traded off with another assistant.
Hmm.
So we would do like a couple days and then like have a couple days off and then do another couple days.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think right, like I was on it the second main stretch, like after we got
Yeah.
everything set up. And I heard a couple songs, was just like, this is insane. Um, and then I was off for like a few days.
Hmm.
And then, coming back, you're like, y'all, like like y'all have been working over here. Like there's like new songs that you haven't heard. There's like other takes of songs and like and then you're kind of like a part of it for the next like tracking bit.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like a bit fragmented.
Hmm.
But then also they took a few days actually like in the middle to just like listen to
Hmm.
everything. They
Yeah.
just or they played through like all of the tape ops notes.
Hmm.
Um and they just kind of like yeah, went through everything, realized that they needed more tape.
Hmm.
And so they like ordered more tape. Um but yeah, the listening portion was really cool. I got to be in there in the studio like while they were kind of like listening down to a lot of the takes. And normally like they're like after they listen to one, they're just like, that was so good, that was amazing, like I loved that take. It's very, I feel like very rarely they were like, I didn't like that.
Mm.
They were
Yeah. Yeah.
very like stoked about what they were listening to.
Hmm.
um and there were maybe a few ones where there was kind of a sense of like, I think we could beat it.
Hmm.
Um, and they went for another one for a couple of the songs. Um, but they did a big stretch of tracking, listened for 2 days,
Hmm.
and then another kind of big stretch.
Cool.
Um, yeah, and they obviously recorded more songs than were on the record.
Hmm.
Um, and some of them tragically didn't. Some of them were more tragic than others that, didn't make the cut. I was like, there were some really, really good stuff. I don't know, maybe it'll be on like the bonus or the
Yeah.
deluxe or whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah. On the subject of deluxe releases, I think this is two topics down the line. But I'll mention as like a foreshadowing that you're in a band, okay, Cowgirl, and you've done the deluxe release like a year after putting out a record thing.
yeah.
So I'd love to talk about some of the okay Cowgirl stuff. But before that, just kind of one more like studio related question. One of the recording with nice gear parts of that, like that process, the part of the recording with nice gear process that remains a little bit opaque to me is all of the outboard gear that goes between the mic and like the desk or the audio interface or whatever. And yeah, I'm wondering like when you're recording at Power Station, do you have a typical signal flow? Um, or are there things that you like to do in certain situations? Like in particular, let's say that you're recording yeah, like a band, like a rock band, or a songwriter or like a rock band with synth or something in that space. um I'm curious about how you would think about using like rack mounted effects, compressors, and outboard gear and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it definitely it varies.
Hmm.
Um, I think I tend to I'll default to like compressing um kick and snare.
Hmm.
Uh I don't know if that's as nuts and bolts as you want me to go, but
Yeah, well, okay.
like
What compressor do you like to use?
um distressors. I feel
Distressors.
like especially on things like that, it's like just super versatile and um reliable.
Yeah. Actually, I have two distressors in my studio because of somebody
Nice.
else's, and I've started to explore them just a little bit. And I like
They're
what I've
sick.
gotten so far. But yeah, like what do you like about distressors? Are there specific like settings that you're into?
Um, I mean, not really. I've I've seen people use the nuke function. That is just like that would be probably, for like some sort of crush mic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, yeah, it'd be kind of like what like, slow attack, fast release. Um, depending on how loud the person is, like it's, you kind of find the input output ratio and whatnot. But yeah, I tend to use those more as like a functional like chopping peaks as
Mhm.
opposed to like I mean they do really cool like stylistic like gnarly like super gnarly like you know distortion compression type things, but um I feel like the Brit mode on the distressor also has like a cool vibe to it. But yeah, usually I use them like yeah, more for like cutting peaks.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, distressors you can kind of like push a little bit more too.
Mhm.
Um but I mean yeah, we're kind of spoiled at Power Station. We have like a wall full of Pultecs. We have like 15 Pultecs in one of the studios.
Yeah.
Pultec EQs. Those are really fun. Um And yeah, we just have like all the main 1176.
Mhm.
I'll use that on like mono sources, yeah, or like mono
Mhm.
drums.
Yeah.
Like um LA2As on bass can be really nice.
You said LA two A's?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm taking some notes here. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, yeah. And then while we're on this subject, as far as like outboard compression, outboard EQs versus like software compression, software EQs, do you have feelings about the two? Do you use them for different things?
Um, well, I feel like the like using a good outboard compressor going in is just like that's great. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if you know what you're doing and you're
Hmm.
you're like careful with it,
Yeah.
it's gonna sound awesome. It's gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna be great.
Cool.
And then that also like well, I was gonna say we were just talking to like one of the chief engineers of Power Station or of like Avatar when it was Avatar, this guy Roy Hendrickson,
Hmm.
total legend. Um, and he was just talking about how like, yeah, well, like I don't really use plugins when I mix. Like when
Wow.
I mix things, like well, he uses plugins, but like he's like there isn't as much need for like these like stacks of plugins on each
Hmm.
channel
Yeah.
because it's like he's recording, he's got things go, he's got the kick going through a 1176 or like he's got things running through like a Pultec like on the way in. So
Yeah.
it's like, by the time it's at that mix stage, he's not he doesn't really like have to do all that. It's already been done.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I mean I feel like do like having processing that you are like confident about,
Yeah.
maybe it's not yeah, the thing with like using plugins is you can like just keep tweaking it.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a little daunting to like commit
Yeah.
to it. But like for the most part, I find like if you do it responsibly
Yeah.
and you're like listening and like making sure it's like nothing's getting like nothing sounds bad, then like doing it on the way in is like way better.
Totally. That's cool. Yeah, you know, I had actually when I was making this trio record at Joe's studio, I had kind of this experience where I mean, Joe knows his studio really well. It's this engineer I mentioned earlier, Joe Bransford, and like we listened to the playback of the recording that, you know, just like a take, and it sounded better than anything that I had ever recorded like up until that point. Just 'cause it's like really nice room, really nice mics, running through nice compressors, no EQ, no mixing, no post processing, anything. And I was just like,
Yeah,
oh, this was the answer all along. And fortunately, that was around the same time that I was
right.
starting to build my own studio. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, so much of working on Torso was like me, or of recording Torso and producing Torso before it got into the mix stage was like just me recording in random, you know, bedrooms. You know, just like in
Yeah,
different places that I was living with like one microphone running through a really cheap audio interface with like a not very good preamp. Um,
right.
and so like I think part of why that record has so many layers. Like, I mean, I am just a person who likes um, I was talking to a friend who's a composer about literature, and the way that he put it when I was describing what I like reading is like, oh, you like being overwhelmed. So like that's kind of a thing. Like I like having like tons of information coming at me, but I think the reason that there are so many layers on Torso is because I couldn't record something and have it sound good, like just because of the gear in the room that I was working in.
Yeah,
And so like I would do
I
a
know what you
vocal
mean.
take and it would just sound tiny. And now there's more that I can do. Like, you know, about like stereo spreaders. Like I didn't really understand the concept of like width when I was working on Torso, really. And so I would do like, you know, rather than having one vocal take and just like widen it if I wanted like a wider vocal sound, I would do like five vocal takes and like pan them so that that way I would still have the like
Mm,
stereo feeling, but it was like 5 points instead of just like one take, you know? So there was a lot of learning that had to happen there. But it's incredible how just like the right room, the right mics, the right gear can make it's like you're basically it's like pre-mixing just to have it sound exactly the way that you want in the space. Um
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it definitely, I feel like it saves some of the like problem solving later.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, like, you know, I I I love the like that feeling of like figuring it out like in a creative way, like, you know, like you were just talking about, like it's like um right, we have spreaders, but like but also like five vocal takes spread out is like pretty cool. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's
I
like
do, yeah. I do
I
like
feel like it's,
I
you
do
know,
like the record. Yeah.
it's yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so
Me too. Me
yeah,
too.
thanks. Yeah, I mean you probably put more hours
Yeah.
into it than any one person that's not me. So that's good to hear. Okay,
Definitely
so
analyzed the stereo field on that album.
oh yeah. Um yeah, wow. Okay. So we're almost we're almost an hour in and we've got a lot of power station stuff covered. I feel like there are a couple of other big picture topics that I have in mind and maybe what this means for the sake of not having like a 3 hour long conversation or something is that maybe I just have to bring you back for another workshop sometime and like pay you again and then we'll do another one of these where we dig into other stuff. So the two topics that I was thinking about were one, kind of your entry process into New York and into the New York scene and what that was like. And then the other one is I think in working with OK Cowgirl, like you've crossed like that, it seems like that band has sort of crossed a lot of thresholds that I think a lot of indie musicians, a lot of indie bands in New York like don't seem to cross. Like it seems like OK Cowgirl has kind of transitioned from being like a local band that's on the scene to kind of like a bigger force. And like when you play a show, maybe there are like two or three shows in New York a year or something, but they're really like besides like, you know, like secret shows or whatever, but you know, there's like seems like they're like events. And I guess what I'm thinking at this point is like maybe saving the early New York stuff for another conversation. Yeah, and so I'd love to talk about like with OK Cowgirl in the last 3 or 4 years, like how you've approached um thinking about moving forward, like how you've approached like goal setting and releasing music, because it seems like there's a very clear, seems like you have a, or the band has sort of a clear trajectory that it's trying to follow towards like getting somewhere. I could be wrong about that, but it's really inspiring to see.
Well, yeah, thanks. I to be honest, man, I mean I feel like most of what you're asking about is like that's all Leah.
Okay.
Like I mean I've observed
Hmm.
uh and I can tell you a couple of the like the kind of like maybe like turning points,
Hmm.
but in terms of like strategy, like I feel like Leah is like such a beast
Yeah.
and has made so many good calls. Um and um I feel like um w- well, I think one of the main kind of like moments that well, in terms of like playing in New York
Hmm.
and like the shows that yeah, I feel like our shows um recently have just been like so fun and like they have felt like events that are just like really kind of like all the homies come to it and it's really fun and I feel like we definitely had a period of time like kind of after definitely after like our first EP that came out and
Hmm.
through the first record where we were playing like a ton of shows um going on like weekend tours and um yeah playing a ton
Hmm.
and I feel like it even almost got to a point where we were like this is a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's exhausting and and playing those shows where you're like, man, was that even worth it? Or
Yeah.
like where yeah, it's just going and playing a show where you're like, oh man, your heart's not in it
Hmm.
and maybe like not a bunch maybe not a lot of people show up. It
Hmm.
can be like really it can be really disheartening and
Yeah.
frustrating. But I also think that that phase was like huge for us, that
Yeah.
we like kept going and like played through that frustration and
Yeah.
like we're able to like work through it as a band and like and a group of friends too, like
Yeah.
um to like get to a point where like now when we play it's like it's fun. It's like really fun.
Hmm.
Um kind of no matter what, it's like we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Um, and also it kind of like I think um, got our name out there as like a live band. Like we do play, and it's like um, we've played a lot
Hmm.
live. And now I think when we do play, we don't play nearly as much as we used to, but when we do, it's like it does feel kind of like a moment.
Hmm.
Um, and we're all like really stoked about it.
Hmm.
Um, and so I feel like we're more likely to just like invite everyone and like, have it be like a really good vibe and instead of like this is kind of like another shift or something. It's like
Yeah.
now it's like really fun.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. This is helpful to hear. Also, really quick, I think the maybe if we're having lag issues, it's on my end, and it's because my computer is connected to the city Wi-Fi outside instead of the Wi-Fi in my apartment, which happens sometimes. So I'm going to switch my Wi-Fi, and it's going to get weird for like 3 seconds, and then we're good. Okay, there we go. I'm not now. I'm on my apartment's Wi-Fi instead of the city's Wi-Fi. It's cool if there's city Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So playing a lot of shows, that's great. And then otherwise like inflection points, things that changed. Also, I mean, assuming that you're down to talk about this stuff because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
related to I don't know, like I mean, because talking about the inside of band stuff can sometimes be like we want to be careful about what we're talking about or whatever. But if it's cool to talk about, yeah, I'd love to hear about like inflection points or things that changed. I mean, I think one of the things that's happened is that you've worked with this engineer who's based in Virginia a few times, I believe, who is one of the
North
engineers.
Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Miles is working with an engineer who lives in Virginia, and so I'm getting these things mixed up. But yeah, and he was one of the engineers on the later aughts Animal Collective records, I believe, like Merriweather Post Pavilion. I could be wrong. Maybe
Um,
this is something you said one time that I'm misremembering.
no, it's all good. I feel like there's like two of them. There's like two
Okay,
producer engineers. Or to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what their affiliation was with with Merriweather Post Pavilion.
okay.
Um,
There's like
but
something maybe that's misty.
yeah, I mean, I think they have a relationship with the with especially like AV Terror.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm mentioning that because that seems like one of the things that could have been a moment where the band moved forward in some way. But yeah, otherwise if you feel like there were like inflection points beyond playing a lot of shows and building up a name as kind of like a touring band or like a live band, I'd love to hear about some of the other things that you feel like shifted on sort of the OK Cowgirl journey.
Yeah, I think yeah, definitely making that record with Alex Farrar
Hmm.
was like huge. And also kind of like that was a moment where like I kind of stopped being like the producer engineer for the band
Hmm.
and I was just like a player.
Yeah.
And I got to go see this guy who has made like a bunch of my favorite records from the last few years like make our record.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was also kind of a like an eye-opening experience for me personally, but like I think for the band it also is just like some confidence to like I don't know, I feel like it felt like we were fitting in to kind of like a vision, I guess. Like we're kind of we like cold emailed him and we're like, you know, we like the records you have made. Like, would you be interested in like recording ours? And he was like, yeah. And so I feel like that was a big confidence boost
Yeah.
and you know, kind of gave us a direction like sonically too.
Mhm.
Uh, and so there's that. I also think a big step that kind of like evolved later was like getting involved in publishing.
Mhm.
Um, because I mean not only did that give us like a couple of like awesome paychecks like
Mm.
from the first EP,
Yeah.
um it like also established our relationship with our current record label,
Hmm.
you know, that gave us like an advance on like recording our second album.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I feel like it was just like it's like that kind of thing that just like really it took down the barriers of like making like kind of like real um or like yeah, making kind of like serious records.
Hmm.
Um, you know, not having to pay stupid amounts to like do it and like or like getting
Totally.
help to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and working with working with the people that like you want to be working with or like that,
Yeah.
you know, you you think fit your vision.
Yeah.
Um I think those were big. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely big for us.
Yeah. Okay. And so the publishing, yeah, what was it like getting the publishing stuff together for the first EP?
Well, that's also that's
That's a
another
Leah
like Leah.
question. Okay,
That's
I
a
got to
Leah
talk to
question.
Leah sometime.
Yeah,
Um,
you should talk to Leah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is all cool to hear. Yeah, maybe yeah, if you're good to talk for like another 15, it would be cool to talk about some of the early New York stuff.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so right now you're in a band that's like signed to an indie label. You're playing like at venues like Market Hotel, which is like not like a starter venue. You're like working at Power Station, like you've engineered for people like Big Thief and like Shakira. Or like I guess the term might be like
Yeah,
assistant engineer, but
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
but you're in the room. Like what so and yet you arrived here not doing those things. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the journey. You went to Berkeley, and when did you move to New York?
I moved here in 2017.
Okay. Yeah. And so I guess painting in broad strokes, like what were the first like 3 years like?
First 3 years, was like, well, I started off bartending,
Hmm.
or like I was like working at a bar in Bushwick, for 2 years,
Hmm.
and in that time, I was like playing with Ryan, in Ryan's band, Fair Visions, and that's how I met Leah.
Okay.
So that's like first year.
Hmm.
Um, and meanwhile, I was also like, yeah, so then I started kind of on the side, like freelancing, doing mixing and recording with OK Cowgirl.
Hmm.
And um got like a few gigs kind of like in that time, that were going pretty well, for a while there, so much so that I wound up like quitting bartending and
Hmm.
like just kind of going full plunge on the freelance thing.
Hmm.
um, and then that's kind of like when the pandemic, or like I think, yeah, I was doing that for like a year or so.
Hmm.
Uh, and then pandemic happened, and that kind of like changed a lot
Hmm.
of things, and I it was kind of like shortly after that, like probably like 2021 or so, where like, um that's when I started like playing in the band.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess to like rewind a little bit, like the first few years of being in New York, it was a lot of like playing with friends,
Hmm.
and um I guess like doing a little bit of studio work.
Hmm.
Not, or like not like as an employee, like working in studios like on music. Um and kind of like, yeah, just like, what I was like 24 or
Yeah.
something, like just like kind of having a good time in pre-COVID New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think kind of like exploring the scene, and like seeing a bunch of bands like Nation of Language was just getting like really popular,
Yeah.
at the time, and like now they're like super popular, and like, I saw them in like a basement in Bushwick, like just like, yeah, going to see things like that, and like just playing a lot of music with friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't get like super serious, about like recording as a career
Hmm.
really until the pandemic.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So before that, yeah, what was the vision before that? I didn't know that about you.
Well, I mean, I guess I had like the intention of kind of just being a freelance kind of audio engineer mixer,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
um, and but yeah, I mean, I guess like during the pandemic, I kind of had a realization that I it was going to be a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah.
really like do that. And
Yeah.
so I decided I needed like recording studio experience. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's when I got like really serious about like studio work.
totally. And so something that you mentioned to me once was that in the pre-pandemic New York era, I think you were living in Bushwick with Ryan. I guess for the sake of recording, I'll say Ryan Work, who's a mutual friend of ours who has a project called Fair Visions. Ryan and I went on tour summer 2022. Super sweet person who's also really good at what he does. Is yeah, just a great human being. But you mentioned I think you had an apartment together in Bushwick, and there was like a space where you would mix that was like in the basement or something like that, and that was kind of where you were like really cutting your teeth on like mixing properly. I think the way you
Yeah.
put it to me was like that you made some really bad sounds in that room or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, I'd love to hear in those earlier stages, like what changed? What do you think you figured out in that era?
That's a good question. And it's a long time ago.
Mm,
I Well, I think that was when like kind of what we were talking about earlier. That's when I realized all the details,
mm,
um, and kind of like how to do different things.
yeah,
Like literally like just like how compressors work,
yeah,
how um just like subtle changes affect things. And I mixed this record for this a band called Goo. Actually, I don't think they're Goo anymore. I think Beck has just gone by Beck Zegans now. But I
cool.
mixed a record for Goo. That was that and like the first OK Cowgirl EP. That's when I mixed those things like 100 times.
Yeah,
Like
totally. Yeah,
before like just getting to that point where you lose total perspective and you're just moving faders.
totally.
um and I still think they sound awesome, but like I think you realize what you don't have to toil over. You
Totally.
don't have to worry about all those things, and you just have to like in when you're mixing just make it sound good, and then move on.
Yeah.
um
Oh man, I
but
want to I want to interject here for just a second because I was thinking about kind of this exact thing recently because I'm working on a lot of music and I listened to Torso for the first time in like maybe 2 years, probably since it came out. Maybe I listened to it like once right after it came out, but I hadn't listened to it in a while. And I listened through it, and one, I realized that it was better than I thought it was, which is a good feeling to have. I think I was so close to it when I finished it that I was like, I don't know what this is. I have no
yeah,
idea if
yeah,
it's good or not. I just have to get it like off my chest. But one of the really interesting things that came from that experience and also has happened more recently because I technically released an EP today. It's a really chill
oh, oh,
EP. It's like not like I'm not putting that much effort into promoting it. Like I'm trying to release like a shit ton of music next year. So this is just to get myself in the habit of like putting things out. And I sat with these recordings for like a year and was like, okay, I'd rather people hear these, like be able to hear these than not be able to hear these. So, and I think there's some just drawing inspiration from people like there's like Fortet or like Mount Erie slash the microphones. Like there are a lot of releases. There are a lot of like weird EPs that you find that like are not like they're not like a major release, but you find them later and you're like, oh, this is really cool. So I wanted to do something like that. But both with Torso, or rather with listening to Torso recently and with this EP, there was a step that I was never able to understand when I was mixing or producing, which is mastering. And for me, just understanding like what mastering like sounds like, even massive. There were so many
yeah,
things that like already sounded good enough, but I just
yeah,
was like, why doesn't it sound right yet? It hadn't been mastered yet. And even with like the
yeah,
limiting or something like that, like God, like even just like a decent mastering engineer, it's really cool to understand that. So that's another piece of the puzzle that I'd always been missing. And now I have a track that I've been getting into that stage where I'm like not sure if it's done or not, and I've been obsessing over it for a little while. Not too much. Like it's not unhealthy, but there is just some like this isn't quite there, but I don't know what it needs yet. Um,
yeah,
and one of the things I was figuring out was like, the drum machines didn't sound like they didn't have as much like oomph as I wanted them to have. And then I listened to this track. I don't know if you know this track. It's called Freedom 2 by this like British rapper Quangface. And I think like Joy Orbison might have also been a producer. It was a big like I think it was like a big like um excuse me, like UK dance music club hit last year. But in my head, that track goes like crazy hard. And I was listening to it and I was realizing the kick drum's just like it's like a click. There's like almost no bass in the kick
Yeah.
drum, like at all. The way that it's like mixed and mastered, there isn't that much low end. I mean, the bass
Yeah.
synth sounds big over like huge speakers. And I've heard it
Yeah.
over gigantic speakers because multiple people played it at the Fortet and Friends festival this past May, which like I'm like a huge Fortet fan, so I went to that. So I know it sounds cool, but over my headphones, like even the bass synth didn't sound like that crazy. But it's because I mean it's mixed like well enough, and it's just really good music. And so I was
Yeah.
realizing like, oh, like with mastering, I mean this will work, and just even having the rhythmic information that's in the track is going to make this work. So that was my own
Yeah.
experience of obsessing
Yeah.
with something. And then realizing even, oh, this track that I thought was awesome, uh there's like no sub frequencies in the kick, or there's
Yeah.
very little,
Yeah.
I don't know, it was interesting. It was just an experience that I had yesterday that came to mind here. But yeah, okay, so maybe one more kind of question on this subject of the early New York journey. Let's say the pandemic winds, as the pandemic is kind of winding down, so or really let's say from the pandemic till working at the power station. What was that like?
That was kind of a rough time
Yeah.
actually. It was like kind of realizing that like I'm not gonna that like whatever the freelance career is, like that's not gonna work. Just
Mhm.
like not making any money
Yeah.
or like just like not enough money to
Yeah.
live in New York. And um I mean, I guess like the pro is like at that same time I started like playing in OK Cowgirl.
Mhm.
And that was fun. But the yeah, I feel like that middle section where I was
Yeah.
like not unemployed, but like just really trying to like look for audio work and
Yeah.
really like I don't know. It was tough. I have a lot of respect for audio engineers who freelance. Like that is a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of like really just takes a lot of endurance.
Mhm.
Um and so I was like I need to like try to get a job. Um
Yeah.
and so I interned at Electric Lady
Mhm.
as kind of my like intro. Um, and that was like really crazy, like a really crazy experience. But it also
Yeah.
that's how I kind of got my job at Power Station,
Oh, I
was
didn't
through that.
realize that. That's cool.
Yeah. One of the someone who I interned with wound up working there, and then she was
Cool.
like, "We're hiring." So
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Because I remember, I mean, I think the last time I heard about your experiences at Electric Lady, it was probably in 2022 when you were just
yeah,
like talking about how the hours were insane.
when I was a
Um,
zombie.
Yeah. I think it was after you'd done it, but you were just like, oh yeah, I just like didn't sleep. Like it was just like constant all-nighters and stuff like that. So it's really cool to hear. Maybe this isn't so much me as an interviewer speaking, but just as a person who's been through kind of like the New York hustle, just like I'm glad to hear that all of that led into a direction that's working now. And we don't have to go super deep into this, but one of the things that you mentioned was that blew my mind was that Frank Ocean recorded at Electric Lady once when you were like interning. Um,
Yeah, yeah, he came through.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's much of a story there other than that you were like in the same room as Frank Ocean once, but
Oh no, I
it's
was
just
not
wanted
in the
to, oh, you
same.
were not in the same room. Okay.
I was
You
not
you
allowed in the room. No, 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 no.
you were in a different room
No,
in
I
the
think
same building,
I
maybe. No?
I ran and got some food for them,
Okay, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and like cowered in fear.
Yeah.
But
Totally. That's cool though. Part of why I'm asking these questions is that I have this student named Elijah who I'm sure you'll be talking to when we do the workshop, who's like 22. He studied like composition, like the sort of like super avant-garde composition stuff that I did at Bowling Green in Ohio. And I was living in Nashville, and is like getting his guitar skills kind of like to where he really wants them to be, and is like producing a bunch of tracks and is interested like in a New York move and stuff like that. And working with Elijah is awesome. And I'm also trying to like, I would love to work with more people who are in his position where they're taking it really seriously and stuff. And so I feel like everything that you say will be of direct use to somebody who's in that position. Um, yeah, and then one other thought. Um, I'd be curious to hear what you think about this, but one of the things that I was observing when I was also in that like New York hustle zone of like, oh my God, I'm trying to like be a guitar teacher, like to pay the bills. And like these options that seem to exist for being a guitar teacher, pay the bills are like not working. And I am constantly
Yeah.
super worried about money. Like when I was looking at the people who were like recording artists or people who had bands and people who were making a lot of progress, a lot of them had jobs. Like I'd
Mm,
say, I mean, I had a lot of friends who were musicians who were like play the gig people, like jazz people or whatever, who were like on the hang, and that's a different kind of career track for people who really wanted to
yeah.
make recordings. They had jobs that they would have a budget. Like I'm thinking about like Miles, who I'd also love to bring on to do a conversation and workshop with people who's I think like probably both of us, like one of our best friends, just
Yeah.
awesome person. Or I don't know the details super well, but I think Adam Lytle seems to be somebody who has like a day job and can use that to like really build the things that he wants to build. And so I
Mhm.
think there's a lot to be said for people who are in that stage, like figuring out a way to have some income so that you're not in this like perma stressed zone and you can think on longer time scales and you can like have the budget to get the recordings that are going to be at the level that you want and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Was that your experience of recording artists who were really doing it, like that they had jobs and had a budget?
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of pretty much everyone I know is like,
Yeah.
there's like it's like we have side hustles. And I mean that's kind of also like that was kind of part of the I think part of the fun from the few years that I lived here was like being a bartender and like being in bands and playing and and playing shows and making records and like making beats and stuff. Like there's something like really, really fun about that. Like really, really great about that lifestyle. And I think when you really start like paying the bills with your craft or with your art,
Mhm.
it gets kind of serious. Like and it can kind of take some of the life out of it. Or it brings in a new set of like feelings towards it. Like that
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, well, I need to like, I mean, from an audio engineering side, it's just like, well, I need to take any job. I need to take like any mixing gig that I can.
Yeah.
Um, and that is like, you know, it's not for everyone for sure.
Yeah.
And so I think having some like runway of like um not feeling desperate, not like making what you're doing like creatively like have that like desperation vibe to it, or like
Totally.
trying to like get away from that
Yeah.
um is huge. Like yeah, having peace of mind is like I feel like it goes back to kind of like making the whole thing feel like more effortless and like just like a natural kind of flow. It works for some people to like go in and like grind super hard and like get out on the other side, and yeah, I feel like it works. But really, yeah, really trying to like be stable, I think
Mhm.
is like um it helped me for sure. And I wouldn't even describe my life as stable right now. Like, you know, um it's definitely better than it was like immediately post pandemic. So
Cool. Cool. Well, this is great. Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for being here. It's great to see you. Stoked for the workshop that you're going to do with people and hopefully like cross paths with you in person sometime soon.
yeah, thanks for having me. Congrats on the EP. I'm gonna listen
Thanks.
to
Yeah. Yeah, it's on Spotify right now.
it.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on plugging it, but yeah, I'll send it your way.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, see you soon. Talk to you soon. This is
All
great.
right. Cheers.
All right, take care.
Cool.
See ya.